The air was stale, heavy with the scent of aged parchment and the faint metallic temps of magic, long suppressed. Each step echoed softly against the stone, the sound swallowed quickly by the oppressive silence that had settled over the hidden vault. "This way," Sorrel whispered, his voice a mere breath as he led Elin through a narrow passage lined with faded tapestries and brittle scrolls. His eyes darted nervously, every muscle taut with anticipation. The elders never expected anyone to find this place. Elin's fingers brushed against the cold walls as she moved forward, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. The fragment of legendary fabric she carried pulsed faintly beneath her cloak, responding to the ancient magic woven into the vault itself. Here, in this forgotten sanctum, lay truths that could unravel everything she had fought for. They reached a massive door, its surface etched with sigils that shimmered faintly in the lantern light. Sorrel produced a slender needle threaded with a silver strand, the tool of their craft and subterfuge. With practiced precision, he traced the intricate patterns, whispering the stitcher's code under his breath. The lock yielded with a soft click, granting them entry. Inside, the vault was a cavern of relics garments, preserved in crystalline cases, scrolls of forbidden knowledge, and a tapestry that dominated one wall. It was enormous, its woven threads alive with shifting images that told a story both ancient and terrifying. Elin approached the tapestry, mesmerized and horrified. The scenes depicted a war waged not with swords or fire, but with fabric magic twisted into weapons of mass destruction. Cities burned beneath skies, darkened by swirling shadows, and figures cloaked in shredded cloth commanded legions of spectral weaves. The ancient enemies, the Threadbreakers, as the legends named them, had once sought to remake the world by unraveling the very fabric of magic itself. A sudden chill swept the room as a voice cut through the silence. "Curious, aren't you?" Master Kalen stepped from the shadows, his silver hair catching the light, eyes gleaming with cold amusement. The sigils on his ornate robe pulsed like a heartbeat, each glow a testament to the forbidden power he wielded. Elin spun to face him, the fragment of legendary fabric tightening against her chest. "You knew about this. You helped bury it." Kalen's smile was thin, devoid of warmth. "Knowledge is power, child, and power must be controlled." The Threadbreakers were not vanquished by force, but by cunning. Their legacy remains, waiting for the right moment. Sorrel stepped forward, hand on the hilt of a blade reinforced with enchanted silk. "We won't let you use it again." Kalen's gaze flicked to Sorrel, then back to Elin. "You misunderstand your place in this tapestry. The threads of fate are tangled, and sometimes destruction is the only way to weave a new order." Before Elin could respond, the tapestry's images shifted, revealing a prophecy. Shadows gathered over Loomhaven, a storm of unweaving magic, threatening to tear the kingdom apart. The Threadbreaker's plan was not merely historicalite, was unfolding now. Elin felt the weight of her heritage press upon her. The ancient enemies were no longer myths but active threats, exploiting fabric magic to sow chaos and destruction. The revolution she led was at a crossroads. To succeed, she would have to confront an enemy that sought to undo the very essence of their magic. Determined, Elin turned away from the tapestry, her mind racing. "We must warn the others. This changes everything." As they prepared to leave, a flicker of movement caught Elin's eye. From the depths of the shadows emerged the whispering shade, a figure woven from torn fabric and darkness, its fragmented form shifting like smoke. It watched silently, its presence a grim reminder of the lingering threats lurking beyond the light. The revelation fractured trust within Elin's coalition. Some feared the scale of the threat, Others doubted their ability to confront such ancient power. Yet, amidst doubt and fear, Elin's resolve hardened. The stakes had never been higher, and failure would mean not just the end of their revolution, but the annihilation of fabric magic itself. The chapter closed with Elin standing before her allies, voice steady despite the turmoil. We face an enemy older than the guilds, one who seeks to unravel everything we hold dear. We must weave our strength together or be torn apart thread by thread. The future of our world depends on it. Outside, the city of Loomhaven lay unaware, its streets alive with the hum of magic and the promise of change. But beneath its surface, the threads of destiny were fraying dangerously, and the true battle was only beginning. The marketplace, usually alive with the clamor of merchants and the rustle of enchanted fabrics, fell into an expectant hush. Mara's silver hair caught the sunlight, the intricate braids woven with strands that shimmered faintly like threads of starlight. Her gown, embroidered with moving runes and cryptic symbols, whispered of long-forgotten magics. As she raised her hands, the crowd leaned in, drawn by the gravity of her presence. Then she began to sing. The seamstress song, a melody older than the guilds themselves, flowed from her lips in a voice both haunting and powerful. The notes wove through the air, threading a tapestry of prophecy that spoke of a final weaving, a ritual destined to shape the very fabric of their world. The song told of sacrifice, of unweaving the old to birth the new, and of a chosen one who would bear the weight of this monumental task. Eyes widened, hearts quickened. Among the listeners, Elin stood with a mixture of awe and trepidation, the implications settling like a heavy cloak around her shoulders. Later, in the quiet sanctuary of her workshop, Elin and Terran prepared for what lay ahead. The room was cluttered with spools of enchanted thread, delicate needles etched with sigils, and sheets of fabric that hummed faintly with latent magic. The air was thick with tension. Terran's hands moved with practiced precision, cutting and aligning each piece. But the lines on Elin's face betrayed her inner turmoil. "Do you truly believe we can do this?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. Terran paused, meeting her gaze with steady eyes. "We have no choice. The guild's grip is unraveling. This weaving, it's our chance to mend what's broken." Elin nodded, though doubt gnawed at her resolve. The prophecy was clear, but the cost was unknown. And with every step closer to the ritual, the shadows of sacrifice grew longer. In the shadowed halls of the guild house, Guild Elder Vares awaited her. His robes were deep indigo, embroidered with the insignia of his rank, but his eyes were colder than the stone around them. Their conversation was a clash of wills, old grievances surfacing alongside urgent warnings. "You tread a dangerous path, Elin," Vares intoned, voice sharp. "The final weaving is not a game for rebels or dreamers. It risks everything we have built." Elin's reply was steady, laced with defiance. "Everything you've built is built on lies and fear. It's time for a new pattern, one that includes all of us." The tension between them was palpable, a thread pulled taut, threatening to snap. That night, beneath a canopy of stars reflected in the river's glassy surface, Elin sat alone. The gentle murmur of water was a balm to her restless mind. Here, far from the scheming guild halls and the stirring crowds, she allowed herself to feel the weight of her journey. The sacrifices she would have to make, the friends she might lose, the uncertain future that awaited beyond the ritual's end. Tears glistened as they traced silent paths down her cheeks, but beneath the melancholy burned a fierce determination. She was the Threadwright reborn, and she would weave a new destiny, no matter the cost. As dawn approached, The city began to stir again, unaware that the threads of fate were tightening around Elin and the kingdom itself. The final weaving was near, and with it, the promise of transformation or destruction. The seamstress' song lingered in the air, a haunting melody that would echo through the ages, heralding the end of one era and the dawn of another. The stage was set, the players in place. Loomhaven held its breath, waiting for the first stitch of the final tapestry to be sewn. Elin stepped forward, her heart pounding in rhythm with the threads of light that danced between ancient pillars and twisted around the colossal loom at the center. This was the Loom of Fate, the legendary device said to hold dominion over all fabric magic, and now it was hers to command or to fail. She paused, her fingers trembling slightly, eyes fixed on the delicate strands that wove through the air like living ribbons. Memories of the journey flooded her mind, the alleys of Loomhaven, the whispered secrets of the Threadwrights, the betrayals and alliances, the wars and the fragile peace. Everything had led to this moment. A soft, haunting melody floated through the chamber, drawing Elin's gaze to the silent seamstress, cloaked in shimmering veils that seemed to ripple with an unseen current. The mentor's eyes gleamed with quiet wisdom as she began to weave patterns in the airy ethereal sigils that glowed faintly, guiding the ritual's flow. The final stitch must be flawless, she intoned, voice like silk and shadow intertwined. One misstep, and the fabric of our world will tear beyond repair. Elin nodded, swallowing her fear. I am ready, she whispered, stepping toward the loom with purpose. But the silence shattered with a harsh ripple of tension as Guildmaster Varin entered. His golden robes shimmered with an unnatural glow, threads of dark magic snaking through the sumptuous fabric. His eyes locked onto Elin's, cold and unyielding. You dare defy the guilds, he said, voice low and threatening. This ritual belongs to us. To me, Elin squared her shoulders. The guilds have long ruled through lies and fear. This ends now. Without further words, Varin raised his hands, and the air around him twisted with dark weaving spells. Strands of corrupted fabric surged forward, attempting to ensnare Elin and disrupt the loom's delicate balance. She reacted instinctively, weaving counter patterns with her hands, sending pulses of unweaving magic to sever the tendrils before they could bind her. The chamber filled with the clash of threads, light against shadow, creation against destruction. The loom pulsed wildly, its ancient mechanisms creaking as if struggling to maintain the cosmic balance. Elin's mind raced, recalling every lesson, every technique imparted by the silent seamstress and her own hard-won experiences. With a sudden burst of energy, Elin reached out and touched the loom's central beam. A surge of power coursed through her veins, her very essence becoming entwined with the ancient device. She could feel the fabric of reality straining, threads unraveling and reforming around her. Focus, the seamstress urged softly, her spectral hands guiding Elin's movements. Remember the Threadwright's promise, to weave not for control, but for harmony. Summoning her deepest reserves, Elin began to weave a new pattern, one that unbound the oppressive sigils embedded in the guild's garments, dissolving their hold over magic. The corrupted fabrics disintegrated into shimmering dust, while the loom's light grew brighter, enveloping the chamber in a radiant glow. Varin's expression twisted with fury and desperation. He unleashed a final, desperate spell, a tangle of dark threads aimed directly at the loom. But Elin's counterweave was swift and precise, severing the attack and binding the rogue guildmaster in chains of pure, untainted fabric magic. As the ritual reached its crescendo, the very air shimmered, and reality rippled like a disturbed tapestry. Elin felt the toll of weariness pressing against her limbs, the strain on her soul, but also the hope blossoming within. The ancient loom had accepted her weaving, and the fabric of magic was being reshaped, freed from the bonds of tyranny. When the light finally dimmed, Elin stood alone, breath ragged but triumphant. The guild's dominance had been broken, and a new era dawned, one woven from unity, freedom, and the legacy of the Threadwrights. Yet, as she gazed upon the transformed world, a quiet question lingered in her heart. What new patterns would emerge from this final stitch, and what would be the cost of the weaving yet to come? Elin stood atop the city walls, her gaze drifting over the rooftops, streets, and marketplaces that had once been battlegrounds but now stirred with cautious life. The ritual had ended hours ago, its echo still humming faintly beneath the surface of the air, a reminder of the profound change that had taken hold. Around her, the city breathed differently. The oppressive weight of the guild's rigid control had lifted, but its absence left a fragile void. The magical fabric that once bound their world with enforced order was now a patchwork of possibility and peril. Elin's heart beat steadily, a mix of hope and the heavy burden of responsibility pressing against her ribs. This was the unwoven path she had chosen, a future stitched together by fragile threads of trust, vision, and untested power. A soft rustle behind her drew Elin's attention. Myra approached, her sharp eyes reflecting the pale dawn light, her expression taut yet unwavering. "The council awaits," she said quietly, her voice steady despite the tension that lingered between them. Together, they descended the winding stair, the ancient stones cool beneath their feet. The council chamber was a stark contrast to the city's newfound vibrantia, room heavy with old traditions and memories of battles fought in silence and blood. As Elin entered, the gaze of Guildmaster Kalen fell upon her like a blade. His deep indigo suit shimmered faintly with embroidered gold sigils, symbols of the old order now fraying at the edges. "You have changed the fabric of our world," Kalen said, his voice low and simmering with resentment. "But change breeds chaos. Is this the peace you envisioned?" Elin met his eyes unflinchingly. Peace must be woven, not imposed. The old ways strangled creativity and freedom. This new order will embrace both, but only if we face the challenges honestly. A flicker of unstable magic sparked along Kellen's sleeve, the sigils pulsing erratically as if resisting the shift. "You tamper with forces you do not fully understand," he warned. "The threads you unravel will unravel us all." The tension in the room was palpable, each word a stitch pulled tight between hope and fear. Elin's voice softened, carrying the weight of her conviction. "Then let us weave a new pattern together, one that binds us not in fear, but in shared purpose." The council murmured, some nodding hesitantly, others scowling with distrust. Outside the chamber, the city continued its slow transformation. Later, Elin met with Sarah in one of the fringe villages that had blossomed beyond the guild's fading reach. The village was alive with vibrant colors, fabrics dyed in rich hues of crimson, emerald and sapphire hung from every stall, fluttering like flags of rebellion and renewal. The air was thick with the scent of natural dyes, mingled with the laughter and chatter of tailors and weavers who had reclaimed their craft. Sarah's copper braids caught the sunlight as she gestured expansively. "This is the future, Elin. Not just freedom, but creativity unbound. The old sigils are cracking, and with them, the old fears." Elin smiled, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "We must nurture this spark, protect it from those who would snuff it out." Yet even as hope took root, shadows lingered. That night, by the flickering candlelight in her quarters, Elin and Myra pored over ancient texts recovered from the vault beneath the city. The pages whispered secrets of the Threadwright's warnings of dark threads woven deep into the magical system, remnants of conspiracies that had long sought to control or corrupt the fabric itself. These threats didn't vanish with the guilds, Myra murmured, tracing a faded sigil with her finger. They've only hidden, waiting for a chance to unravel everything. Elin's jaw tightened. Then we must be ready. The ritual was only the beginning. Our path forward is fragile, but it is ours to weave. Outside, the city's heartbeat pulsed with new rhythms and certain, alive and full of promise. The unwoven path stretched before Elin, a tapestry still in progress, its final pattern yet to be revealed. And in the quiet spaces between threads, new dangers waited to be faced. As the first stars blinked awake in the deepening sky, Elin's resolve hardened. The future of fabric magickened, the kingdom itself depended on her strength, wisdom, and the bonds she would forge. The story was far from over. The next stitch had to be made with care. Her journey continued. Elin stood at the front of the expansive room, her gaze sweeping over a gathering of eager faces, young apprentices, seasoned tailors, and curious onlookers who had come to witness the dawn of a new era in fabric magic. The hall was alive with soft murmurs and the rustling of enchanted cloth. Bolts of fabric shimmering with latent power arranged meticulously on tables that stretched like ribbons across the room. It was here, in this sanctuary of thread and magic, that Elin would begin to weave the future. The years of struggle, rebellion, and revelation had culminated in this moment, a chance to rebuild, to teach, and to inspire. The legacy of the Threadwrights, once thought lost to the shadows of history, now breathed anew through the hands of those willing to learn and innovate. Elin's voice rose clear and steady, cutting through the ambient sounds. Welcome, all. Today, we stand not as guilds divided by ambition and secrecy, but as a community united by the love of creation and the pursuit of knowledge. The fabric magic that binds our world is alive, ever-changing, and it is ours to shape together. A ripple of applause greeted her words, the sound warm and genuine. Among the apprentices stood Mira, a bright-eyed girl with indigo curls, clutching a slender bundle of thread that pulsed softly with light. Mira was one of Elin's first students, a symbol of the new generation, eager to explore the depths and breadth of fabric magic beyond the constraints of old guild doctrines. Elin approached Myra, her smile gentle yet firm. "Show us what you've been working on," she encouraged. With a hesitant nod, Myra carefully unfurled the glowing threads, weaving them between her fingers. The threads responded, swirling and twisting into intricate patterns that shimmered like liquid starlight. Her hands trembled slightly, the weight of expectation and excitement mingling in her veins. "Focus on the flow," Elin advised softly, stepping closer to guide her movements. "Feel the threads as extensions of your own will, not just materials to be shaped. Let them sing your intent." Mira's eyes met Elin's, finding strength in the mentor's steady presence. Slowly, her fingers steadied, and the weave took form, an elegant tapestry of light and shadow that seemed to breathe with a life of its own. The gathered crowd watched in awe, whispers of admiration spreading through the hall. Meanwhile, in a quieter corner, cluttered with sketches and fabric samples, Joran and Elin huddled over their work. The air was thick with the scent of dyed cloth and beeswax from candles. Their voices low but passionate as they debated the merits of blending ancient sigils with contemporary weaving techniques. "The old ways carry a power we cannot ignore," Joran insisted, tracing a delicate pattern on parchment. "But without innovation, we risk stagnation. The magic must evolve, or it will wither." Elin nodded thoughtfully, agreed. That is why this school must be a place where tradition and invention coexist. We honor what came before, but we are not bound by it. Their collaboration was a microcosm of the greater revolution. Elin had ignited a revolution not of weapons and war, but of creativity, knowledge, and shared purpose. It was a delicate balance, fraught with challenges, but one they were determined to sustain. As dusk approached, the apprentices gathered around a fire pit where Sela, the venerable historian and fabric mage, began to speak. Her silver braid gleamed in the firelight, eyes sharp beneath furrowed brows. Long ago, she intoned, the Threadwrights wove magic not just into cloth, but into the very essence of our world. Their art was lost to time, buried beneath the weight of fear and control. But their spirit endures in each thread we spin, each pattern we weave. To know their story is to understand the power and the responsibility we bear. The apprentices listened, rapt, as the flames cast dancing shadows that seemed to stitch the past and present together. Elin watched quietly, her heart swelling with pride and resolve. This was the future she had fought for, a living tapestry of knowledge, courage, and hope. Night deepened, and the hall slowly emptied, but Elin remained by the glowing fabrics, her thoughts weaving plans for the days ahead. The path was uncertain, the challenges formidable, but the threads of change were strong and vibrant. As she prepared to leave, a sudden breeze swept through the open windows, carrying with it the faint scent of fresh linen and distant rain, reminder that, like fabric, their world was delicate yet resilient, ready to be reshaped by those who dared to dream. Elin's voice was a whisper against the night. The threads are reborn, and so are we. The journey was far from over, but in this new dawn, anything seemed possible.